uses, we also know overview of it. Let's determine the frequency of your DME. DME frequency is 962 to 1213 megahertz. Please remember, they are not fixed. They can be variable. The margin, the range is from 1 to 13. Okay. In some books, in some examinations, this can also be given as 960 to 1215. So don't become nervous. The options are not given and all. So just tick this one. It's all right. Please remember the emission code also DME is P0N. Okay. It's given in the books also. 0. It's 0. Okay. Now, if you subtract 1213 minus 962, how much do you get? Are you sure? No. There are two. Yeah, 251 plus the first one. Okay, you forgot. Sorry, you forgot. I forgot 131. So I forgot one digit to add here. What I was saying, that you have to use 1213 as well. So you get one more frequency. So you have 252 channels available. Okay, you have 252 channels available in this. If we understand what I'm trying to say is, if this is an aircraft, this is your DME station, the F1 frequency will be fixed. Maybe it is, let's take an example of 962 only. Suppose the frequency is 962. The sent back signal will be F1 plus minus 63 megahertz. So in this case, I cannot subtract it because that will be outside the margin, right? So I can only add it. If I add 63 plus 962, how much do I get? So this will be the return frequency. Okay, that is how we calculate it. It is always the F2 will be always equal to F1 plus minus 63 megahertz. Okay, that will create 252 spot channels in the whole system of that particular. Okay. All right. Now you understand this also. When we understand this, this creates two bands. Okay, two bands. One is a lower one, the other is the above high band. One is a low band, the other is a high band. How are they created? If from the frequency F1, I subtract, okay, sorry, let's take this as F2. Suppose F2 is equal to F1 minus 63. That will give me a low band. If suppose F2 is equal to F1 plus 63, then I get a high band. Okay, so you can see examples also given here. Okay, you can do that. More importantly, these signals are sent in twin pulses. That means that not just one pulse, it is sent in twin pulses in order to have more safety, okay, more reliability. So the twin pulses in the case of low band will have a 36 microsecond of an interval, and in a high band will have a 12 microsecond of an interval. This is the same principle of operation, just to make it more reliable. That's a twin pulses combination. Okay, that's the most things which you'll find general. Okay, in brief, what is important about this particular thing called DME. Yeah, you already know the uses of DME. The most advantageous use is what? Slant range. I get the slant range. The other uses, it can be used for holding patterns. If you remember, I clearly told you what is a hold, right? If you remember a hold, this was a runway. There are many aircraft which are trying to land one after another. So the ATC tells them to hold over a VOR. Okay, like this. There are holds. Now, of course, VOR you can use to hold, but you need distance also. So in order to have a distance, you need DME. So that is why VOR holds are also used. Something else is called DME arc. Basically, DME arc is what? I explained you this also. Mostly pilots, if they want to come to the final approach, this is the final approach, and then they will land. So if they want to make a fixed circle outside the aerodrome, suppose this is the aerodrome Delhi. Delhi asks Victor Tango Foxtrot Golf Zulu to make 25 nautical mile stay 25 nautical outside Delhi airspace to avoid traffic. So we will make a 25 DME arc. It's a very beautiful thing to do. I mean, when you start flying, it's very good if you're able to learn this very quickly. So you'll make a 25 nautical arc outside Delhi to stay away from the traffic. Okay, mostly you'll have this in your military airspaces. Suppose you're going for a flight from Prayagraj, somewhere near Prayagraj. Prayagraj always asks you to stay outside the boundary zone. Okay, 25 nautical miles. So DME is helpful in that also. So you'll make a DME arc in that scenario. Of course, it is also used in non-precision approach. If you remember non-precision approach, I have also explained you that if I'm flying non-precision approach, I'm using a VOR, and in VOR, I will also be using DME coupled with it. For an example, I'll just give you a small example. This is my runway. The aircraft will be taking a flight path. Okay. You will have a chart paper. In that chart paper, it will be written to you. Suppose 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, these are nautical miles. Okay, 1 nautical mile, 2 nautical mile, 3 nautical mile, 4 nautical mile. It will be given to the chart paper at 4 nautical mile. You should be at 1,000 feet. So when you will be coming at 4 nautical mile, you should check your altitude, and if it's 1,000 feet, well and good, you can continue. If it's not 1,000 feet, if you are above, descend. If you're below, climb. Simple logic. At 3 nautical mile, you should be at 700 feet. So at 3 nautical mile, you should be at 700 feet. 2, you should be at 400 feet. And finally at 1, you should be at 100 feet. So if this continues, then you are correct on the flight path. This is called a non-precision approach, which will be explained to you when you start flying. Okay, I'm just include this concept so that when you go into the flying club, you're not awestruck. Like, so, oh, this is something new, nothing new. Okay, I've explained you. So this is how you'll use your NPA, non-precision approach, to come in for landing. Other than the NPA, remember there was precision approach. In precision approach, we talk about ILS. And the right side, this is all about ILS. Remember outer, middle, if you remember all this, inner, there are 3 markers. Now we used to use NDBs, but we can also use DME. And when we use DME, this is our ILS threshold. If I remember this threshold, it will give you 0 nautical mile at your threshold because using ILS. Please remember this. Okay. This is known as ILS threshold. It will indicate 0 nautical miles when you use a DME. Right. All right. You can see here, classic example of a DME.